Yo guys, it's slyroh. You already know that today I'm going to be talking about the anime that I watched for the fall 2022 anime season. Every season I like making a video telling you what I'm going to watch, and then it's fun to do another video at the end of the anime season to talk to you about what I did watch. And this season was jam-packed with a lot of interesting shows. By my count, there are 10 shows that I tried to watch and 9 that I'm keeping up with consistently. I say keeping up with because I haven't finished any of these shows yet, but I am pretty close to the end of a couple of them. And pretty soon I'm going to be making a video where I actually rank all the anime that I watched this year from worst to best. But I thought it would be a good idea to make this video first so you have an idea of what I have watched, so you then can have an idea of what may show up on that list. Let me know some of the shows that you watched this anime season and what I missed out on, and I'm going to talk to you about maybe some things that you missed out on. So let's go ahead and see. So first, as always, I'm going to start talking about the shows that I dropped or didn't make it very far into. The first one being a bit of a special exception because it's actually Mob Psycho 100 Season 3. I didn't drop this or anything, but I'm watching this with a group of friends, and we get together to watch it every week or so. But the holidays are sort of throwing that off, so I've only seen the first couple episodes, and I most likely won't finish the series until well into January at the earliest. But the one show that I did actually drop is Shinobi no Itoki. The premise of the show seemed to promise that it could be a really fun ninja action show, but it turned out to not really be fun at all. The main character didn't even know that he was a ninja, and then in the middle/end of the first episode, he sort of learns that he's supposed to take over an entire hidden clan of ninjas, and just the whole setup to this was very weird, especially because then he gets to go get enrolled in this ninja school that has ninjas from everywhere, despite the fact that it's like a secret society that nobody knows about. The setup was very bizarre, none of the characters introduced were very interesting, and it looked like it was going in a direction that I did not like, so I dropped it after one single episode. For the next section, I'm going to group all the sequels that I've watched, and the first one that I'll talk about is the second part of Spy Family. This really isn't a sequel as much as it is just a continuation of the first season that happened to take a break for an anime season for production issues, I'm sure. But yeah, Spy Family is still a very, very good show that should surprise nobody. If you haven't seen it, it is one of those shows that I would almost recommend to any sort of anime watcher. If you've never seen an anime, if you've seen 100 anime, I feel like there's something that can appeal to literally everybody. This show is popular for a reason, and it's because it is hard to dislike. Outside of any time Yuri is on screen, I absolutely hate him so much. But outside of that, I have no complaints. If you like the first part, there's no reason why you shouldn't be continuing and watching this as well. I'm also currently watching My Hero Academia Season 6, which is going to continue into the winter season, and Season 6 of Academia has just been non-stop action. Everybody is fighting, and I think it's been really cool. At least the first few episodes really took the focus off of Deku and more of just sort of like the overall battle and world that's happening. You get to see some other characters shine, and I do think it was a really cool way to start the season. And so far, all the action has been interesting. It's been a good show, and I really don't have any complaints at this point. And the last sequel that I'll bring up is To Your Eternity Season 2. This is a show that has its ups and downs, and I do think that the current arc is more of an up. The story went in a direction that I wasn't expecting, as they sort of time skipped through a lot of time. And while the character that is sort of the main sort of side character of this arc didn't gel with me at first, I do think that it's gotten a lot more interesting the more that I watch. I'm not sure if it's reached some of the highs that the first season reached yet, but I definitely don't think that it has stooped to any of the lows that also happened in the first season. I do think this is a very good show, and if you enjoyed the first season of To Your Eternity, this is definitely something that I recommend checking out. We'll save the heavy hitters till the end of the video, and instead I'm going to talk about two of the weirdest shows that I've seen, the first one being Akiba Maid War. I honestly don't even know how to describe this show. It centers around maids at the Oinky Doink Cafe. They, like, pretend to be pigs and stuff, and they get into, like, actual gang wars with other maid cafes, which generally involves a lot of guns and violence. The amount of time that I've spent watching the show with my jaw on the floor and my inability to process what I'm even watching is more than I thought could even be possible. One episode is all you need to know if this show is for you or not. It is insane, it is out of this world, and it is something that I definitely recommend you experience, and depending on your experience, I will say you're welcome and I'm sorry. But a show that's a little bit less insane, but still a little wacky, is The Lies We Tell Ourselves. I remember when looking through what was coming out for the fall 2022 season, this show there was no way to gauge what it would even be about or like how good it would be. The source material like wasn't even rated on my anime list, and I was just like, you know what, I'm watching this out of pure principle, and I'm glad that I did. This is a comedy anime that centers around 4 girls at a school that all are keeping secrets from each other, but they don't do it very well, and that's sort of part of the over-the-top nature of this show. One of the girls is an alien from another planet that is like a captain of a spaceship. One of the girls is like a ninja that's like trying to escape her ninja life. One of the girls is actually a boy, which you would think is played terribly, but it's actually not. It's actually done pretty well. That's not something that Japan usually tackles with any sort of grace, and I do think that this is probably the best version of that I've ever seen, because the character himself very clearly sees himself as a boy. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do think that it's still worth checking out. And then the 4th girl is someone who can read minds, so she's able to know, well, 2 of the other girls' secrets, because her powers are restricted to only being able to read the thoughts of other girls. And from my experience, the show doesn't really go anywhere. It just sort of centers around the wacky hijinks that these 4 characters get up to with each other, as well as playing their backstories and quirks for a bit of over-the-top humor. And I think it's a fun show. I don't think it's amazing, but I don't think it's bad. And I have thoroughly enjoyed every episode that I've watched. Moving on to the next show, at first I wasn't sure if I was going to even check out this anime, but I did end up watching Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury. I've always liked the idea of Gundam, but I've never really watched any of the series, and finding an entry point is very, very difficult, but this show is very newcomer friendly. You don't really need to know anything about previous Gundam series to pick up on the story. I do think that the main character is not my favorite, and I have had a little bit of trouble finding characters to really latch onto, but I do think that it's been interesting enough that I've still enjoyed watching it. Also, the soundtrack is incredible. I love it so much. The opening is also really, really good. Just everything in terms of the style, the visuals, the music, it is presented very, very well. And if you have any desire to see mecha anime, this is one that I definitely would recommend. I do think it's a solid watch. And we'll wrap up the final 3 entries, which I would consider to be the 3 more heavy hitters of this anime season that I've seen a lot of hype for. The first being Bocchi the Rock, which I did not expect to see all that much about. This is a music anime that I thought would have to be carried by the quality of the music played, but it's actually done good enough just sailing on the characters. And that's not to say that the music is bad, it's actually really good. But that's just not even where I would say that the series' strength lies. I think the strength goes with just how much effort and passion is clearly put into the show. They play around with a lot of different art styles and visual styles. They go way over the top with some of the comedy and punchlines. But at the same time, all of the characters feel really grounded and like someone that you can relate to. I knew early on that this was going to be something that had a lot of passion put into it, just because as somebody who has a history of drumming, the drummer in the show, there's like a meme that animators don't animate like musical instruments correctly, drums especially, but as far as I can tell, most times when music is playing and the drums are being played, what is being animated is also the same things that would be hit to make those notes, and that's such a little thing that doesn't need to be done, but the fact that they go to that extent to make sure that they're nailing that detail, and I assume they do that with the other instruments. I'm just not as familiar with, the finger placement on guitars and things like that, but I'm sure that might be accurate as well. And even though the main character is very over the top with the amount of social anxiety that she has, to the point where it can sometimes be a little hard to watch, I do think that over time it sort of grew on me, and as well as her going as a character, really helps propel the show along as well. Another big heavy hitter this anime season is Blue Lock, a show that I knew I was going to love just when I saw the premise, and it was indeed a soccer battle royale like I was expecting. I think the show has one of the best episode 1s that I've seen ever in my entire life. It really does a great job of setting up what Blue Lock is and why everyone is here. It's also a battle royale that doesn't have death as any sort of mechanic, which is always very interesting to me. They're all just trying to become the main striker on Japan's national team by going through this very harsh elimination style battle royale thing. And while I do think after episode 1 it kind of got off to a slow start, I do think that it started picking it back up for me around episode 7 or 8, to the point where I'm really invested in every single episode that comes out now, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. I do think that the main character leaves a little bit to be desired. He's not very special. He doesn't really have a personality that stands out. But he's surrounded by a lot of other characters that do stand out for various reasons, mostly in a good way. And I do think that that's going to help keep the show very fun and interesting. Though at this point, I'm not really rooting for the main character to be number 1, and I would be surprised if he doesn't, given the nature of you're following the main character for a reason. So we'll see how it ends up going, but it's still a good time regardless. And the last heavy hitter is, of course, Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man is huge. It is one of the only series that I've read the manga for, at least part 1. And honestly, I do think that they're doing a really good job with the adaptation. There's always going to be people that prefer the manga, and at this point, I mean, I might be one of them, but I do think that the anime adaptation adds a lot. It's a little bit of a slow burn at first, as I think a lot of the most exciting things about Chainsaw Man don't happen until later. But I'm super glad this is happening, and I really hope that they do end up adapting at least the entire of Part 1's manga. So if for some reason you haven't bought into the Chainsaw Man hype and haven't given it a chance, I'm here to be another voice telling you that you should probably get on the Chainsaw Man hype, because I do think it is warranted. Of course, with the caveat that it is very gory and bloody and violent, so if that's a bit too much for you, then I understand. But if that's not a factor that's stopping you, then I absolutely think that you should be checking this out if you have not done so already for some reason. But there it is. That is everything that I watched and am currently watching for the fall 2022 anime season. Let me know what you thought about some of the shows that I've shared. Let me know if I missed out on anything that you watched, and look forward to me coming out with the video where I'm going to be ranking every anime that I watch from worst to best, which is going to be exciting, and it's also going to be a very, very difficult list to put together, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Hopefully you all are as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all around. So till then, peace out.